Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Back at it with another video. Thank you guys for your patience. I have been traveling for like the last 2 weeks and things were quite eventful for me. And I'm just playing catch up and it's taking me a little bit of time just to get back into the swing of things. I wanted to do a video talking to you guys this week about the Pluto retrograde. I brought that up in a previous video, didn't have all the information ready or the dates. The more that I started looking at it and studying it, I felt like it was really important for a number of different reasons, both because of Mercury's aspects that it's going to be making during the Mercury retrograde to Pluto, but also because this is the last Pluto retrograde we are going to have before Pluto actually ingresses into Aquarius in spring of 2023. I know it's crazy, we're already talking about next year, but kind of put something together for you guys to talk a little bit about, you know, what this transit has been about. We've had Pluto in Capricorn really since about the fall of 2008, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what it's wrapping up, what a Pluto retrograde might do, and where it's kind of hitting each and every one of the 12 signs. If you stay tuned to the end, I'm also going to be pulling tarot cards and talking about how it's going to be affecting the 12 rising signs. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. Make sure you leave a comment. Let us know where this is taking place in your chart. Don't forget to click the subscription button below. Also consider checking out my memberships if you like my videos and you want to support my content. For all of my other viewers, those of you guys who have been around for some time, welcome back. Thank you guys for joining me. So let's kind of get into it. Let's talk a little bit about the dates, what the retrograde is really going to be about. When we're having outer planet retrogrades, one thing I want you guys to know is that we may not feel it as much as we would an inner planet. So when we think about like a Mercury retrograde, a Venus retrograde, a Mars retrograde, because those planets are closer to Earth, because those planets also have more of an effect in our day-to-day life, not shortchanging Pluto, but we will feel those retrogrades more. So it's not something that maybe is going to be as loud as an inner planet retrograde. However, because this is the last one before this planet, Pluto, ingresses into Aquarius, I feel like it's important, and there's a little bit of gold in this particular Mercury retrograde. If you guys already saw my Mercury retrograde video, I talked about the importance of Mercury trine Pluto, how that's going to bring up some really deep, thought-provoking conversations, digging deep emotionally, psychologically, really helping us reevaluate our values in general, what we're building, right, Taurus, where we're investing, what feels good, what tastes good. All of these things are going to be changing once we start to see the retrograde happen. Part of that's because Mercury is going to drop from the mutable air sign of Gemini into the fixed sign of Taurus. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. I talk all about it. But this Pluto retrograde is going to be taking place from April 29th, so it's already started. We're already in the retrograde period, and it's going to start at 28 degrees of Capricorn. Now it will retrograde back to 26 degrees, so pretty much like 28 to 26 degrees of Capricorn is the hot zone. We will see this retrograde end on October 8th, and it will end at 26 degrees. So rather long retrograde, right? April all the way until early October. It's only going to be retrograding back 2 degrees. But these particular degrees are hot zones because it's the late degrees of a cardinal sign, so it's very action-packed. But also because this is the same degrees that have been triggered in the previous Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde in Capricorn. So it keeps bringing up these same particular points. Now, 26, 27, 28, it's like Gemini. Then we get into it being more along the lines of like, you know, Cancer or Taurus, depending on how you look at it. I like to practice degree theory. So I'll break those down. I'm going to read you guys the Sabian symbols. I've read these Sabian symbols a couple times before, so they should sound a little bit more familiar by now for some of you. Who this is going to affect the most. So anybody who's got cardinal placements from about 25 to 29 degrees. Okay, so if you are an Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, sun, moon, or rising from 25 to 29 degrees, basically the last decan of all of the signs, this is where you're going to be feeling this the most. Now, those who will benefit from this Pluto retrograde will be Earth placements such as Taurus and Virgo, especially if you have placements from 25 to 29 degrees of Taurus or Virgo. Now, if you have these placements in Capricorn, you're going to be experiencing Pluto conjunctions. It's just a power up, basically. And there is this long-standing story of some kind of transformation that you've been going through, right? If it's on your ascendant, it can be with your body, with where you're living, how you express yourself, or even your identity in some way. If it's on your moon, it can be radical changes and transformations when it comes to your home, your relationship with a mother figure, your roots, your intuition. And if it's happening on your sun, it's a major turning point when it comes to what makes you happy, what is going to feel most authentic, and how you're really breaking through issues with the ego, right? This is coming from a Sun-Pluto person, so I get it. Those of you guys who've been going through that, that's not easy, but the other side of that transit is incredibly fulfilling. Then for water placements such as Scorpio or Pisces, you are also going to be benefiting from this, especially if you have placements from 25 to 29 degrees. Now, you will be experiencing a sextile from Pluto. We're going to talk a little bit about how that sextile works. The earth trines are going to be, the earth signs are going to be experiencing trines. So you will see physical change and transformation in your life in some way. Now, Pluto retrograde in general, you know, what does it mean? Basically, it's a transit where it's about 5 months or so that Pluto turns retrograde. And this always happens at a time of the year where the sun is also opposing Pluto, because it's going to represent this whole cutting something out, letting something go, healing something. Now, transit Pluto retrograde is a time for like reflection. So we're reflecting on power and control issues, what we can and cannot have control over, what scares us, what we're psychologically or emotionally working through. Now, Pluto retrograde in general, though, it's a time for reflection, right? Because the planet is retrograde. So to return, review, rework. And a lot of these energies are going to be experienced more so internal. And it'll talk a lot about like how we're reflecting on in our private lives, our relationships to some of these themes, right? So depending on where it kind of lands in your own personal chart. But it is going to be more private. Pluto is private, and it is going to be more internal, or perhaps maybe even psychological. Now, we can find that during this period, major transformations can take place within ourselves personally. We are going to find that external crisis can actually present us with opportunities to learn to let go, and it'll prompt us basically to change. Now, it's really important that when a planet is retrograde, though, that we are integrating some of the lessons that we have been learning from when it was direct. So we've had Pluto direct for some time. In Capricorn, it's been showing us where are we working too hard, where are things too cold, where are things too heavy-handed, too mean, too rigid, right? These are some of the themes that come with Pluto and Capricorn at the later degrees. And it's encouraging us not to ignore some of these tendencies and not continue to make the same mistakes over and over again and give our power away. Now, the whole focus of a Pluto retrograde is about basically like making the necessary shifts within ourselves, whether that's our attitude, how we perceive change or fear or death, and shifting the energies internally and really kind of learning from Pluto's lessons, right? Pluto is the planet that is the furthest in our solar system. So when we go through Pluto transits, very slow, takes a long period of time. A very personal Pluto transit is anywhere from like 1.5 years, sometimes to 3 years, depending on the retrograde cycle. So those of you guys who are within those sweet spots, like those cardinal squares, or if you have Capricorn placements in these degrees, you have been dealing with, or I should say dancing with Pluto for a little while. So none of this is new. Think of this as just a time to kind of now reevaluate and be willing to go deeper and make these changes. I think that Pluto in itself, because it is inherently more of a feminine energy, right? Because it's traditionally the ruler of Scorpio, which is a feminine water sign. When we go through Pluto transits, very slow, takes a long period of time. A very personal Pluto transit is anywhere from like 1.5 years, sometimes to 3 years, depending on the retrograde cycle. So those of you guys who are within those sweet spots, like those cardinal squares, or if you have Capricorn placements in these degrees, you have been dealing with, or I should say dancing with Pluto for a little while. So none of this is new. Think of this as just a time to kind of now reevaluate and be willing to go deeper and make these changes. I think that Pluto in itself, because it is inherently more of a feminine energy, right? Because it's traditionally the ruler of Pluto does well when it's internal. I think that there can be a lot of like us having more of those like devil and angel on our shoulders conversations going on in our lives right now, and really kind of going back and forth about what we're willing to let go of. Or what we're willing to stop feeling the need to control. Maybe I can only speak for myself on that, but I'll tell you guys a little bit about how the Pluto retrograde has kind of gone down for me, and it's been very interesting, just being somebody who's very Pluto-based, what it's made me realize. So just anticipate that there is going to be some significant transformations happening. Now, when a planet that is a more difficult archetype, like Pluto, is retrograde, it's almost like we get a break from the intensity in a way. So it's nice because we can actually kind of breathe, and we can take a step back and really kind of reflect. And I think it can be a lot easier for us to actually make change during this transit, especially because there's some wonderful aspects that's going on at the very beginning of the Pluto retrograde. So it's not often that I'm like really overly optimistic about retrogrades. You guys know I'm pretty between the eyes when it comes to transits, but this is one that I'm actually quite pleased with. Now, why is this Pluto retrograde going to be a little bit more fortunate? Well, part of it is because it's going to have both positive aspects to Mercury, the messenger, the mind, travel, business, all that stuff, but also to Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is getting ready to change signs, so even though it will be out of sign, it'll still technically be in a sextile to Jupiter, even when Jupiter moves into Aries. This basically means that positive transformations are afoot. And this can be in any aspect of your life. You want to look at both where Jupiter is as well as where Pluto is. You're going to be seeing that sextile. It's been going on for a while, actually, because we have seen Jupiter in positive aspect to Pluto for a little while, especially with its conjunction to Neptune. So I've talked about this in some of my previous videos. One thing that I think that I really like about this is that when we start to see like the trines and like the sextiles happening to Pluto, I think it's going to give us the opportunity to become more conscious and aware of bad habits. And what bad habits we actually are ready to kind of do away with. And maybe it's taking out the trash in our life, maybe it's cleaning out the garage, maybe it's finally kind of like dealing with all of the things that we've been holding on to that's like not healthy for us. Especially I think of like Mercury, Pluto stuff as being like negative thought patterns, maybe some bad habits when it comes to always being on our phone, always talking about work, always talking about business, always talking about making money, but allowing us to rework that, and I think lean deeper into what will be the Mercury in Taurus trine Pluto, which is, but what do I value, right? But what do I find beautiful? But what is comfortable? And what are my own unique personal talents? And so I keep coming back to this. You know, I've had, thankfully, a lot of time the last 2 weeks to like reflect on stuff, and I feel like it's always good for me to have time away to come back and be able to kind of create content that is going to feel like more fresh and a little bit more meaningful. I was watching an interview actually with Elon Musk, and he was talking a lot about how in the future he feels like we may need to have some sense of like, I guess, like common, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like income, right? Just general income for the world because of where we're going with technology and AI, that a lot of people are going to be put out of jobs. And he was saying, you know, it's just a matter of fact. It's just kind of a sign of the times. And because so many people are going to ultimately be like removed, because we're going to start putting robots and artificial reality in a lot of positions in society, that we're going to need this assistance, right? I guess it's like just general income. I don't know what people are calling it. It's still like a very kind of taboo idea, I guess, when you think of just how society has become the last, 10, 20 years. That's just grind, make money, be successful, take a half lunch, don't take time off, like don't take maternity leave, just work. At least here in the United States. It's not like that everywhere, thank God. And the more that I thought about this, I was like, wow, this is really something, because the North Node is in Taurus. So we are going to be very fixated on getting what we need to survive, making sure we have enough money, making sure we have enough food, making sure that we can also preserve the planet. These are things that come with the North Node in Taurus. But also I think a lot about art and creating art and things that are beautiful and jobs and positions that may never really fully be replaced by robots. Crazy as it sounds, right? And this is coming from somebody who has that. I mean, I can't tell you how many clients and people I've spoken to that's like, why would I invest $200 or $300 talking to an astrologer when I can go online and I can generate a report and I can have that report printed. And it's so simple and efficient and easy, and it's more affordable. And while there's something to that, right, it's kind of like, do you want to go and pick up a dictionary? Do you want to pick up a poetry book? Astrologers are people who have their own tone in how they express energies, because the transits and the planets and their unique configurations and alignment tell a story. And so really it's up to us, almost kind of like authors, to paint a picture with words and express to you what is coming on your cosmic path and what may manifest. And we, in a way, divine the stars and their various mythological energies and talk to you about what may be coming, or like I call it, astro weather. I wonder if you're ever really going to fully get that from a program or from artificial intelligence. Sure, we can have a robot that can perfectly sculpt a vase, I guess I should say vase, and glaze it and fire it and probably produce way more than any skilled, person who's involved in pottery or ceramics ever could. But what it's going to lack is the soul. Right? It's going to lack that. You're not going to have those delicate little imperfections. You're not going to have something that makes it unique. You're not going to have those little brush strokes and all the things that you get from that human touch. You get what I'm saying? It's got me thinking a lot about art and creativity and talent and self-expression, and that some of the most prominent jobs in society are going to be those that have the human touch. And call me, idealistic, but I really feel like the people who can be really good at what they do and really fixated on not just doing it because they want to make money, but doing it because they love it, doing it because they have a knack for it, because they bake the best bread, because they grow the most beautiful flowers, or they arrange them, or they paint the most beautiful murals. These are things that cannot be replaced by technology. And I think that these particular transits that are coming up over the next couple of months are really helping certain individuals figure out, what do I value? How do I express myself? What do I think about the way that I make money? Do I enjoy the way that I'm making money? And if not, how do I have the power to change that? Change the way that I think, the way that I go about learning a new skill, or perhaps even just adding a new tool to your toolbox, right? That's kind of what I see with the trines that are going to be happening to Pluto. So I would say perhaps maybe you want to reflect on that. You might be feeling that in some way in your life. And just be open to these really very Pluto-like subconscious conversations, right? Whenever we see conversations that involve Pluto, like a Pluto conjunction, a Pluto trine, a Pluto sextile, even an opposition, there's something deep. It comes from deep within, right? Because Pluto represents going deep into the earth, drilling to the core of an issue, drilling to the core of the planet, pulling up everything, all of the oil or the gunk or whatever. It can even be what's keeping you psychologically from being able to be more positive or optimistic about how you're utilizing your resources or your personal talents. So there is going to be this this really interesting opportunity in some weird Mercury retrograde's way of being able to receive this information from Pluto. So it could be, if you're looking for it, if you have Mercury-Pluto contacts, you know what I'm talking about. These very kind of subterranean things that come up, right? It'll come up in a dream. It'll be something that comes to you in the middle of the night. It'll be one thing that ends abruptly and you're having to kind of scramble and figure out how do I make sense of this? What do I do? I got to start over anew. Pluto is crisis, okay? So I want you guys to know that while we're in the midst of this eclipse season, all of these things are happening. People are having to pivot and learn to get back to basics and really focus on what they're really good at to be able to make a living. Now, Pluto obviously rules themes like death, sex, wealth, power, control, but also secrets. And I'm anticipating that with this transit, we are going to be able to see the opportunity over the next month or so for some huge secrets in society, especially pertaining to banking, resources, land, and food to come about. So there may be some kind of like scandal that breaks, or there's going to be a leak. I've said in previous videos that the North Node in Taurus deals with fertility and that the eclipse was going to bring up stuff in regards to life, right? Taurus is life. So unfortunately, at least here in the United States, we're on the heels of seeing some very controversial situations going on in the Supreme Court in regards to women's rights to their bodies and abortion. And I'm not going to get into that because everybody has their own opinion. But this is part of this, basically. You know, the Mercury trine Pluto, that retrograde, I think, is going to be them getting to the bottom of how did this leak? Where did it come from? Who put it out there? Is there financial reasons behind this? I mean, obviously with politics, there's always something dirty in the water that involves power, control, or money. But I think we're going to see more of these themes coming about, especially considering the fact that Capricorn doesn't just rule our career and our long-term goals. It also rules authority figures, government officials, elders, or corporate business type people. So I think that we're going to see possibly some truths unearthed about what people in politics are really doing, why money is involved in this in some way, and who it's benefiting. I mean, without getting too political, I mean, it's really evident that the timing of this could not be more ironic. Both parties obviously are going to campaign on this. We're also going to see that there is probably going to be some real explosive stuff that comes up about who leaked it and why and the money behind that. So I would just say keep an eye out for that. I would like to read you the Sabian symbols for both 29 degrees and 27 degrees of Capricorn. So as you guys know with the Sabian symbols, I always round up. A couple of people have asked me recently. The Sabian symbols, Screen of Prophecy, okay? This is the book that I use. You can also check out below. I've got a link to my Amazon profile. Not really trying to market or make money off of it. It's just people always want to ask, like, what are you reading? What do you recommend? What are you using on your videos? So if you ever want to know what books I'm using, or sometimes my tarot decks, I'll put it on my Amazon account. So with this, we're going to read 27 because it's going to station at 26 degrees. So we get to round up, and we're going to read 29. Okay. So let's go ahead and read 27 degrees of Capricorn. A mountain pilgrimage, perseverance, taking the high road. The symbol speaks to vision and to the perception of high reality. The image of a mountain pilgrimage symbolizes a spiritual journey or a quest for understanding and enlightenment. It dramatizes the determination of man to comprehend the ultimate purpose and the meaning of life. The emphasis here is on the importance of not giving up before a goal is reached or a dream is fulfilled. At its highest, it represents aspiration and devotion, high and noble goals. The accent is on endurance and staying power. Getting to the finish line may seem especially difficult today. Guard against quitting just because you think your aspirations were set too high. Don't give up until the dream is realized. Mission, purpose, calling, your vision, your spiritual journey. Just reflecting on that. I mean, my goodness, you know, Pluto first entered Capricorn in 2008. And it was November of 2008 during Scorpio season. Or right at the end of November, I should say. I think it was Sag season. So, you know, Pluto's been in Capricorn for a while. And if you're somebody who is already aware of all the workings of your chart, you know that it's been a real long road with wherever Pluto has been transiting. And it's been digging up a lot of stuff, right? That's what Pluto does in general. I find that it's been especially ruthless in Capricorn. Maybe that's just me because I have a lot of cardinal placements, but I have found that it's been regularly bringing up themes of responsibilities and what society expects, and learning not to fall into some toxic kind of patterning that has been created by society or by, you know, just those who are running the world at large. I'll just leave it at that. And lots of issues, obviously, with power struggles, especially being that Capricorn is a more Saturn-based sign. So we've seen like this power struggle, but to the extreme, right? Especially in the later degrees of Capricorn, the rich getting richer, not wanting to give up power and control, wanting to really continue to bring more in, evading, you know, taxes in a lot of ways. And we're just seeing like major wealth inequality issues. On the flip side, I think it's also really needed to happen to kind of really show everybody where the problem is, like where the shit is. That's what Pluto is. And generally when we see, you know, a planet getting to the end of a particular sign, it's going to be extremely strong. Now, Capricorn is a cardinal energy, so it's going to climb the ladder. It's going to push for more power, more control, more domination. And unfortunately, we're going to see this kind of really peak really up until the time that Pluto enters into Aquarius. And then I think we're going to start to see a real turn in society. Now, what direction that goes in, I'm not going to speculate. It could go one of two ways. I think society in general is getting ready to come to a dividing point, basically, where Pluto in Capricorn has been more about, I think, capitalism and capitalizing on some of the crises that's been happening in the world over the last several years. That's been giving more power and control to government and also big business. Once Pluto tips into Aquarius, I think we're going to start to see society split into either a very futuristic kind of dystopian lifestyle and really challenging for quite a few individuals in general, or it's going to materialize as like a breaking point where I think a lot of people are going to break and they're going to want freedom from financial restrictions and possibly even like centralized banking. So if you guys want to know more about that, go and check out my Pluto and Aquarius video. I did a fireside chat with one of my friends, Rose Theodora. She's one of my favorite people. Happens to be one of my best buddies, and she's also an amazing astrologer. And as we get closer to Pluto's ingress into Aquarius, I plan on doing a webinar about that and like really getting into it and talking about some of my perspectives. But I guess what I'm getting at is like it's going to be the darkest before the dawn, right? And I think that 27 degrees of Capricorn really reigns true, at least for me, just having, you know, Pluto being in my fourth house. And I think about everything that's happened since it entered in 2008. It might have been a little bit more extreme because for me, Pluto was on an angle. But when Pluto first entered into my fourth house, I actually relocated from the city that I was born in and that I lived in my whole life to Los Angeles. And it was like that month as I moved and I felt like my whole life was uprooted. My parents finally really separated, and I ended up moving in with my mom, who is a Capricorn, and living in a haunted home. I think maybe you guys have heard me talk about this in the past, which then materialized as years of then uncovering lots of like family truths and secrets and like learning a lot about the lineage in my family, specifically my mother's side of the family. And then in turn, also learning more about my great grandmother, who was like all into astrology and had Starbucks and was like big on cooking and like feeding people. And she was like she lived in a caravan in the hills of Transylvania and Romania and escaped the war. Anyway, just years of learning about that. And then, you know, like developing my intuitive stuff. Granted, Pluto hit a bunch of my personal planets, but I feel like just since Pluto entered my fourth house, it's like I've died and been reborn, and I've had so many different homes and so many different periods of my life. It's just like kind of mind-boggling. I was reflecting on that before making this video. So wherever Pluto is in your chart right now, it's been there since 2008, and it's really been kind of killing off, you know, burying, digging things up, and it's been this repetitive circle of like showing you, you know, are you working too hard in this area? Are you working to the point of becoming cold or detached? Does this part of your life feel very difficult or very challenging? Is it dominating, right? Or is it a situation where because of the constant crisis and regeneration that's taking place, it is preparing you and actually setting you up to carry that energy over the next 2 years? Now, I think that's what this is about. Because this is the last Pluto retrograde in Capricorn before Pluto enters into Aquarius. Pluto will enter into Aquarius on March 23rd, 2023. And it won't be until June 2023 that Pluto will retrograde back into Capricorn again. Now, Pluto will fully move into Aquarius at some point in November of 2024. But I just want to remind you guys that next spring in 2023, when Pluto does move into Aquarius, it will move to square the nodes as well as Jupiter. So we will be in a position where we must upgrade. We must commit to the future changes and transformations, vibrationally, energetically, society. Definitely it's going to bring, I think on one hand, Pluto in Aquarius is going to bring mass opportunities for new wealth, especially when it comes to technology and just, you know, like I said, artificial intelligence in general. But I'm not as optimistic about the first ingress, because that ingress is going to be kind of kicking off with a bang with the square to the nodes that will be in fixed signs. Then when the north and the south node move into Aries and Libra, Pluto will retrograde back to Capricorn and it'll square the nodes again. So people keep saying like, well, what's the deal? Like 2020, 2021, 2022, like it's just one crisis after another. And I keep looking at 2023, my eyes get really big and I go, well, we're all going to realize why we've been having to work so hard the last 2 or 3 years, because the bigger change is actually going to be coming like spring of 2023, when Pluto in Aquarius squares the north and the south node. And then we continue to see that Pluto square the nodes. Those of you guys who are into evolutionary astrology, you know that that kind of represents like the need to do something, to evolve. So you want to look at Pluto and Capricorn right now as building you up and preparing you for where Aquarius is in your chart. But by then, because the nodes will square Pluto and Jupiter, it'll be reinforcing change in a way that's not comfortable. Now, Capricorn, like I said, it's a cardinal earth energy. It's a Saturn energy. So we see themes like responsibility, parenting, career, long-term goals, but we also see guilt and anything relating to older establishments, grandparents, parents, older people in politics. I mean, it's safe to say that like the old money and the old banking systems and the old power systems and those who have been ruling and controlling things and just like running the world are not going to go down without a fight. Now, Aquarius is very different because it does carry the energy of Capricorn and whatever Capricorn has initiated, but it's detached, cooler, more independent. It's more futuristic. And Aquarius is naturally like a succeeding energy. So it's carrying forth whatever has been started. So what I'm getting at is that I would encourage you guys to work with this Pluto retrograde between now and the end of the year to really focus on what work you're building. Are you building something or are you really using your goals in a way that's in alignment with what you want to be known for in the world, right? Do you want to just be known as somebody who just came here and worked a job and collected a paycheck and then you just checked out? I mean, for some people, if that's what you want, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But really start looking at where Capricorn is in your chart and whether or not you feel like you have control over that, or if there's certain limitations or things that you're afraid of that's not really allowing you to go deeper into that particular house in your chart. Now, the aspect specifically, also Jupiter in Pisces for the last couple days, even when Jupiter moves into Aries here soon, it's still going to be in a sextile to Pluto. So this is essentially like bringing success and positive change, because Jupiter brings good news. Pluto brings transformation. It's associated with changes in regards to like increased power and influence, but also spiritual growth and personal growth or professional advancement. That's something else we can see with Pluto making a sextile to Jupiter. So it's an excellent omen for like wealth, creation. It can be a good omen for the stock market and big business. It can also be a good omen for growing your own business. So we might kind of see that there is some support. And I think it's kind of safe to say that it's like wild that we're seeing like high highs and low lows in the markets. I think that's going to continue, especially because of the eclipses. But nevertheless, that sextile, even when Jupiter moves into Aries, is still going to be an out of sign sextile to Pluto and Capricorn. So you want to really work with that. Mercury and Taurus during this Mercury retrograde. So if you haven't seen my Mercury retrograde video, check it out. I talk about this, but when Mercury retrogrades and drops back down into Taurus, it will form a trine for a period of time to Pluto and Capricorn. So this brings positive information. This is going to bring information that will help you change and transform the way that you think, the way that you communicate with others, the way that you do business. It may feel like deeper or like that there's more probing going on because that's the Pluto energy. And it can give us with the retrograde the ability to understand things and to go deeper. So some of us may feel inclined to like search, snoop, research, read between the lines. It's a really awesome time for like divination and really trying to like get to the core of issues and just investigating or uncovering things in general, specifically uncovering secrets. But it can also be a time where we're just able to go deeper with our self-analysis. And if you're somebody who's like involved in therapy or anything in regards to psychological assistance, you might have some breakthroughs. It can also be a time where we find that there can be new partnerships that can begin, specifically like friendships or even business, because that's Mercury. So watching Mercury come into a trine to Pluto, you know, friends or some relatives or neighbors or people like that can be especially helpful. And there can be some kind of fated feeling of like certain people coming in at the right time. Now, Pluto is going to station direct, like I said, on October 8th, 2022 at 26 degrees of Capricorn. When that happens, I was looking at it, and we'll talk about it as we get closer in October, but Pluto will be in a direct trine, you know, with Mercury in Virgo, and Mercury loves being in Virgo. It's the, obviously, Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So when that happens, that's going to also be a really interesting time where like some kind of information or truth, especially something that's really solid, is being unveiled. Now, Pluto retrograde was obviously will be trine Mercury in Taurus. So that's also reinforcing the positive transformations. So then when, you know, Pluto is retrograding right now, excuse me, completing a train of thought. Pluto is retrograding right now and it's at 29 degrees. So I want to talk to you about what that means. So we talked about 27. So that's going to be later in the year. That's like not giving up, holding on to the plan. And 29 degrees. I know I've read this a dozen times. I think I've said this to you guys before too. This is what I named my business after, Beyond the Veil, because this is one of my favorite degrees in all of the Sabian symbols. 29 degrees of Capricorn, woman reading tea leaves. The theme is a screen of prophecy. The symbol speaks of divination and prophecy or desire to pierce the veil between the visible and the invisible worlds. The image of a woman reading tea leaves emphasizes psychic insight, intuition, interpretation, symbolic imagery. The keyword is a signature, a Sabian symbol defined by Mark Edmund Jones in his book Occult Philosophy. The indication of ramifying sequence of cause and effect, the potential conveyance or varying correspondence in any given situation, revealed by an object or event in the forefront of attention. The symbol or its significance, logical alertness, rational creativity, or intellectual psychometry. Sabian's signature is similar to the Jungian synchronicity, a coincidence in time of two or more casually unrelated events which have the same or similar meaning. Or the simultaneous occurrence as certain psychic state with one or more external events which appear meaningful parallels to the momentary objective state. At its highest, the symbol represents exceptional intuition and understanding of the deeper significance of events and situations. The accent is on divination and seeing into the future. Your greatest advantage lies in paying attention to patterns and looking at things symbolically. One of the first things that I started doing when I first started practicing divination was tea leaf reading. You know, it was my favorite thing. Putting tea in a cup, the whole art and the act of you drink it, you know, you put it on the saucer, you spin it around, you tap it 3 times, you meditate, you pick it up, and then you look at it and you adjust your gaze and your eyes to see what the symbols were that come through the cup. Now we can do this with scrying, fire scrying, water scrying, looking at a crystal ball. I do this when I do readings. When I see charts, I kind of adjust my gaze and I'll look at the chart to see what pops out at me. I do the same thing with tarot readings. One thing I would advise you guys to be aware of is that this is going to have an energy that's incredibly psychic. 29 degrees in general is a very psychic degree, but when it's in Capricorn, we're going to see waves of psychic energy setting up and people kind of opening up and becoming in tune to what's going on in the world. And they're going to start seeing some of like the occult symbols out in the world. I think this is just going on like a kind of like an intuitive bender here, but I think there's going to be a lot of money because Pluto is wealth, or a lot of power, or a lot of significance to powerful people working with intuitives and working with psychics and working with clairvoyants and people who can actually see into the future and divine accurately. Maybe it's going to be some like men who stare at goats thing. I don't know. Could be that, you know, the government's investing more money, or we start finding out about how much money they're investing into learning more about psychic abilities and telekinesis and like all of this stuff. You know, Reagan, or the Reagans in general, they had an astrologer, as have many other really prominent people in society and in government. Kings, queens have had astrologers, psychics, fortune tellers, divinators, you name it. I mean, I think that there's going to be a huge uprising in some of this stuff over the next couple of months, and be interesting to see if people are making moves based off of what is actually being like prophesized privately, is what I would assume, though, because it's Pluto. But how does that relate to you? You know, I think that right now it's talking a lot about maybe people becoming more interested in divination and learning more about psychic development, intuitive development, but possibly also just having waves of visions and starting to see sequences and things out in the world that suddenly are kind of coming together, that are being cosmically organized to get people's attention. So that's what's so beautiful about Pluto and Pluto-Mercury aspects, is that if you can look into the ethers, if you can look into a crystal ball, if you can relax your gaze, if you can stay open, Pluto will talk to you. Mercury will relay those messages from the underworld. Pluto gets a bad rap. You know, he's not, I don't think he's as bad as everybody makes him out to be. I think that what I've learned, just having a lot of personal Pluto placements in my own chart and having seen, you know, thousands of clients go through these transits, Pluto has a tendency to ask you, what are you afraid of? And you need to be careful, because he's kind of like the Riddler in a way, where if you do show him what you're afraid of, or if you admit to it, that is almost the crack that will create the crevice for him to start kind of seeping in there and saying, oh, you're afraid of this. Okay, here you go. And he'll serve it to you on a platter. But what we don't realize is that after that death or that rebirth, that transformation, that crisis, likely it brings up this whole opportunity in our life to start communicating differently, thinking differently, seeing from a different perspective, and realizing that life and death are both intrinsically tied. We need to have both, right? It's not just all about birth, it's about endings and releasing and letting go, so we can experience those new beginnings. So many of us are actually still resisting that. The last 2 or 3 years, the astrology has been about where we are resisting change, where we are so hooked into what society tells us we have to do, giving our power away, thinking we have to work a 9-to-5 job, thinking that we're here just to make money, pay bills, and die. The events that have transpired were literally to show us, hey, if you want to break out of the system, if you want to break out of the matrix, you can, but you need to be willing to see where you're giving your power away. So, with that being said, I'll leave you guys with these dates one more time, then I'm going to pull some tarot cards for you. So from April 27th, 2020, excuse me, from April 29th, 2022 to October 8th, 2022 is going to be the Pluto retrograde, and it'll retrograde from 28 back to 26 degrees of Capricorn. And then in 2023, so this will be May 1st, we're going to see that until October 10th, there will also be another Pluto retrograde that will retrograde from Aquarius into Capricorn. I'll do a video on that later. I'm going to do a webinar. That's my plan on Pluto and Aquarius for people who want to attend and want to hear what I have to say, and also be talking to people about how to navigate some of those changes. So stay tuned for that, because that's definitely something I'm going to be doing soon. But this is the last retrograde we have before Pluto goes into Aquarius. So this is the one that we want to make count. Okay? So today I figured in Pluto fashion, I would work with the Flux Arcana Tarot. Kind of spooky, right? Very Pluto-like. And pull some cards and talk to you guys about what the deck has to say about this Pluto retrograde for each and every one of the 12 signs. This is going to be whole sign house predictions. I am a Western tropical astrologer. If you'd like to listen for your rising sign, then your sun, and then your moon. Your rising sign is what's most likely to physically manifest, although the sun can as well, and you may resonate with that also. And if you'd like to listen to your progress chart, you can do that as well. I've heard some people recently on the channel leaving comments like, oh, it's in alignment with like Vedic, what's going on? I studied Vedic astrology. I really like my circular charts. I'm a creature of habit, but I work with the decans and the various like nakshatras, excuse me. So I apply like Vedic technique to Western astrology. So some of you guys are like, oh, this is weird. It's like spooky. I'm kind of infusing it and making it my own thing. So That's how that works. So if you are somebody who usually listens to Vedic and you've been listening to mine, I hope you're enjoying it. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about this. I'm going to tell you guys where the Pluto retrograde is happening, some things that might manifest for you, just some themes to be aware of. I'm also going to tell you what house Pluto rules. Now, this is important because this is where we separate basic astrological kind of predictions that don't really resonate to talking about house rulerships and things like that. That's going to paint a much fuller picture of what you may actually be experiencing. Get my notes up here. Sorry, guys. There we go. Okay. Okay, so for Aries and Aries rising, well, Pluto is going retrograde in your natal 10th house, and Pluto traditionally rules your 8th house. One thing I would say is that this is an excellent time to reevaluate whether or not you are still really feeling empowered by your career. It's not a time to continue to point your finger at your boss for why you hate your job or why you're not feeling like you're making some of the progress that you'd like to be making. It is a time to radically change and transform your career. I know you've been doing it for a very long time. I know some of you guys have been feeling like you've either been struggling with either a parent figure or your job as a parent, or how you are leading a team at work for some time. Maybe you've had some really unruly bosses and people who have been flat out just mean. But I think that because Pluto rules your 8th house, it can also be about just a total transformation in regards to the type of work that you're doing or the title. Now, Pluto in the being the ruler of your 8th also rules partners, money, and resources. So for some Aries, it can be a time where you are going through a real shift with your partnership or your relationship. It can be a shift in regards to one of the two of you guys going through a career change, which then in turn affects your joint finances. So that's another way to look at it. Because the 8th house rules other people's money, if you've been feeling like you've been going back and forth and not getting enough support and not enough benefits, if you have not been getting a raise, if you have not been feeling financially, I think, secure, right, and like set up, then that's definitely going to be something that's going to continue to go on, and it's something that you need to address. It's like redefining your value system and whether or not you feel successful based off of like what you make. Now, this can also be true for your partner as well. There can also be like lots of secrets and things that are coming out in regards to your partner's work or a business partner in general. So that's something else that can kind of transpire. And somehow there's like a change or transformation that's going on in terms of your joint resources in general. Okay. All right. So let's see what the cards say for you, Aries. Oh, very interesting. I grabbed two cards for you, which is kind of funny. It wasn't an accident. We've got the Knight of Cups. And then the card that came up behind it was the Two of Cups. Very Pluto-like, right? I definitely think this is talking about partnerships, business partnerships or romantic partnerships. And I think it's saying that there is like an emotional shift, right? So if you've been feeling like you're waiting for somebody to validate you, if you're waiting for somebody to say, hey, here's this bonus, you did a good job, or, hey, I really appreciate you, here's this. It's kind of saying somebody's going to step up to the plate and they're going to do that. The Knight of Cups is definitely somebody who you're emotionally invested with. And I think with the Two of Cups, it's like somebody coming in who's like telling you emotionally, hey, this, I really value you. It can be just high intense emotional things going on in general. I'm not going to kind of candy coat it because it is a Pluto transit. But I think that it can calm things down, so it can kind of smooth the waters over as well. So if there's been like lots of conflict with a partner about financial situations and whether or not somebody's working or whether or not somebody's bringing in enough, this might smooth things over and kind of calm things down a little bit. For Taurus and Taurus rising, you've got Pluto going retrograde in your 9th house, and this deals with your belief system, the bigger picture of your life. It's a good luck house. It's a house that deals with foreign travel, education, anything in regards to law, publishing, teaching, stuff like that, gurus. Now, it's interesting because Pluto rules your 7th house. So that tells me that you may be possibly in a situation where you are seeing a slowdown of what's been a really challenging period in regards to your belief system when it comes to relationships. Maybe your relationships have been changing in some way because you've been traveling. Maybe you're learning a lot more about relationships and what actually relationships take to be successful. It's also possible that you or a partner are reworking or strategizing something in regards to either travel or education. Some Taurus and Taurus risings might be finding that a partner is wanting to go back to school, they're wanting to finance something, they are wanting to become a teacher, they're wanting to publish a book, something like that can be coming up for you as well. And just changes revolving around the way that you see the world. You know, the ninth house does deal with our relationship to God. So I think Pluto being there is interesting because you're realizing that power can come from teachers, gurus, partners, things like that. I would say that because it's a polar energy for you, you know, Pluto is, like I said, the ruler of Scorpio, but it's in a positive angle to this Mercury retrograde for you, Taurus. It's all about you learning how to communicate the bigger picture to a partner. Some of you guys might be talking possibly about the idea or playing around with the idea of also relocating, traveling, going on a either a far distance trip or a bigger relocation, and you're having to talk to somebody about that. So if you need somebody to help you plan that, if you need somebody to help you when it comes to signing legal documents or finding the right place or finding a home or anything like that, that can happen. And if you've been struggling with like legal issues or law issues or anything in regards to like setbacks or delays with a lawsuit or possibly even with like something going on with like education or publishing, the right person can kind of show up and they can kind of help you through this time period. The card that I pull for you is the Sun. Very interesting. So it's really highlighting that. I mean, Taurus, you and Scorpio are certainly kind of going through lots of changes with these eclipses right now. I think it's really interesting because, you know, the sun right currently is in Taurus. So it's really highlighting the fact that you need to change and transform possibly what your beliefs are because it's making aspects to your sun or to your ascendant or to your moon. I think it can also be talking about just you really becoming more aware of what the bigger picture is and maybe just being willing to kind of like talk about that, share and like shine a light on what you're hoping life could be like between you and a partner. For Gemini and Gemini rising, Pluto is going retrograde in your natal 8th house. Interesting transit for you, Gemini. Now, Pluto traditionally rules your 6th. This is the time of detoxification, clearing things out. This is the time of putting to rest old bad habits, health issues relating to problems with coworkers. This is also a time where I think if you have been unwilling to address psychological stress or, like I said, health problems, they're definitely going to be coming up now. I think that because Pluto rules your 6th house, which deals with like your daily routine, where you're working, coworkers, pets, it's really shining a light on the fact that there is a possibility that you can remedy certain problems at work. You can remedy certain health issues as long as you're willing to pay for it. So be mindful of that. Now, Pluto is comfortable in the 8th house. So I think it's interesting that it's like hanging out there, and it's also making aspects to planets in your 10th house right now. And I think really what that's saying is that you're having like growing problems. So there can be growing problems when it comes to work, that, you know, it's like your work is expanding and you have to like hire somebody to help you, or that your schedule is expanding and changing. So you're like needing like, you know, to be working more, or you need a bigger space. So these are some of the things that I see that happens when we have aspects between the 6th and the 8th house. I would just say try to stay open when it comes to transparency with your finances and your resources, right? Because the 8th house is other people's money. So there can be a sense of like needing to talk to a business partner before making any big moves, or needing to really reevaluate whether or not you're charging enough for your services before you're kind of expanding your business. Like, this is about learning that you can bring more in from other people. The card that I got for you is the King of Wands. Okay, so the King of Wands. So that is typically a fire sign, so it can be like a Sag and Aries, or it can be a Leo that comes in to kind of help you. This can be a really positive card for like initiating things, you know, getting moving physically, working up a sweat, feeling creative, and feeling really in your personal power when it comes to executing things and being creative. Now, I have this feeling that this could be somebody who comes in that kind of puts a fire under your ass that's like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. So if you need like a PR agent, if you need an assistant, if you need somebody who is going to be like a physical trainer or anything like that, this is the kind of person that will likely come into your life, okay? For Cancer and Cancer rising, Pluto is going retrograde in your 7th house of relationships. So you're going to get a little bit of a break here, which will be nice for you. I think it's interesting because all of the cardinal signs are feeling it. So it's, you know, Aries, you, Libra, as well as Capricorn. But if you have been going through some challenging times with a relationship or with your dating life or your love life, or with a business partner or with a spouse, this is the time to watch, because you've definitely the last couple of months been going through the motions with that. Perhaps maybe you've seen a side of other people you weren't crazy about, but it was also to kind of show you where you lie with them, and if you have good boundaries with them, and if there's really good intimacy, and if you really are in love with this other person, or if you really do value this other person. So some things are worth fighting for, some things are not. Only you can make that decision. But I think that considering, you know, Pluto rules your 5th house, it's going retrograde in your 7th, certainly like love and romance are really important factors when it comes to relationships. It can't just be all like icy kind of Capricorn traditional. You bring in more traditional partners. Also, you know, Leo and Cancer risings more than any other sign, because you have Saturn-based 7th houses. You guys have a tendency to see relationships mature over a longer period of time, right? So I would say reflect on what's been going on in relationships over the last couple of months. You know, what needs to go, what's not working. Especially knowing that it is the ruler of your 5th house. Now, children somehow or true love can also factor into relationships. So these can be really big topics when it comes to relationships for you in general, especially with these eclipses that are coming. I would say pay attention for that. And you need to be asking yourself, do you really feel like you are in love with this other person? Or if not, are you ready for love, right? Are you ready to go deeper? Are you looking for a creative partner? That could be another way that I look at it. And I think with Pluto going retrograde, you really want to pay attention, because we are going to have a number of planets here over the next month going deeper into the sign of Aries, and you're going to start seeing some T-squares between Cancer and Aries and Capricorn. So that'll be a time to really take a look at whether or not you feel like you have like a say in a relationship, or if if you're able to kind of not throw your weight around, but like if you really want something, you're going to have to learn to be like, I want it this way. This is what I want. Are we doing this or not? And that's going to really help you kind of determine whether or not this relationship is going to move forward. Okay. All right. So the card that I get is the 6 of Wands. Great card. A card of victory, moving forward and being victorious. So if there has been a sense of like, are we going to make it? Are we not? Are we going to stay together? Are we not? That is a positive card that talks about a homecoming. So I'm wondering, like, is it a situation where you're, bringing somebody home to meet your family, or has a partner been gone? Are they finally coming back? Are you focusing more on just like building a home front with this person and developing more of like a home base with them? Are you just happy to have somebody return? This is a card that is about victory though. So I feel like if you have been having issues in relationships, generally it's a good omen that things are going to, smooth out. For Leo and Leo rising, this is Pluto going retrograde in your 6th house, and Pluto is traditionally the lord of your 4th, which is your home. So interesting. So it's going retrograde in your 6th. 2 or 3 things come to mind. One is just like, are you having issues with your schedule and feeling like you're never home? Are you traveling a lot, or are you working a lot? So do you need to change something about your living or your lifestyle? Have you been trying to kind of kick a bad habit or stick to a diet regimen? Or just, better physical health changes. I think this is a wonderful transit for you, Leo, to really focus on like cleaning up and organizing the house, like getting organized before you get anything else done. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm the type of person that before I like start some major life shift, I need to like clear out my space and organize my space. Like, I'm not going to start a new diet without cleaning out my entire kitchen and organizing everything and making sure I have everything that I need. Same thing with my workspace, all that stuff. So I look at these aspects between the 6th and the 4th. Pluto's physically retrograding in your 6th, so your schedule might change, your health might change, and it rules your 4th house. So it's like, how does your diet or your health or your wellness or your schedule affect how you feel emotionally or what you can get done at home? Are you making the time to do things at home? It can also be about organizing things and getting stuff, I think, in better shape so you're not wasting time. So if you're really busy, maybe it's like bringing somebody in to help clean your home for you, organize your home, putting labels on things, getting everything organized in your kitchen. So if you're in and out of work and you're not home all the time, you know, then you're good to go. You can bring in organizers, people to clean. It can also be about a family member or a pet dealing with a health issue. If you are feeling like you need to kind of get out from underneath a home, sell a home, be done with a home or a property, I could see that as well, but it might need some work. That's something else that I kind of see here. Be mindful that it's going to still take a little bit of time for you to kind of adjust your schedule. A lot of this is about learning to kind of better balance and not overworking to the point of like emotional or mental exhaustion and not getting things done at your house. So it's about finding that balance so you can kind of upkeep everything in the domestic home zone. The card that I got for you is the Chariot. Okay. So that can be about movement, moving things around the house, getting furniture out, bringing new stuff in, people moving in with you, you moving to places, buying houses. But that's about the plan, right? It's like about what the plan is. And that might be something that you're planning more for like July or August. That's a card that comes up for Cancer, but it's about intuitively leaning into these changes. Interesting that that's your 12th house. So it might start talking about, might talk about that starting up in like June or July, you know, that you're like, okay, I think something's going to change. I think I'm going to be moving. I'm moving somewhere else, or just like really listening to your intuition, because with the Chariot, they use, you know, the guy who's driving the chariot with the 2 horses, he's using the stars to be able to navigate where he's going. That's about following the astrology or your intuition or your dreams before making any moves. For Virgo and Virgo rising, this is Pluto retrograde in your natal 5th house, which deals with lovers, creativity, children, dating, romance, love. And this is the ruler of your natal 3rd house of communication. So are some of you guys thinking about moving in with a boyfriend or girlfriend? Are some of you guys thinking about talking about having children? Are you learning to communicate and express how you're really feeling? Do you need more time for vacation or holidays with a romantic partner or a loved one? I get the impression that there's like a lot of like learning how to communicate and speak freely from your heart. I mean, the rest of your transits going on right now are really great in your 7th and in your 8th house. Jupiter being in your 7th and also Jupiter and Mars going into your 8th is a real focus with intimacy and like merging with another person. So I get this feeling that it's like learning to communicate and express what's on your heart, and like learning not to become super guarded with your heart and wearing your heart on your sleeve, and just talking about how you're feeling and what you love and what you're interested in. Now, I could see possibly this could be about having more times for like vacations and holidays that are like road trips or going somewhere with siblings. I could also see this being an opportunity where you're trying your hand at starting an online business, and you have your own business and you're wanting to launch like an online store or a website or some kind of social media to promote your services. So these are 2 other ways where this could manifest as well. But stay open is what I would advise you. Similar to Taurus, I mean, you're experiencing Earth trines. Actually, Virgo, you're getting it pretty sweet because you've got Taurus, the Mercury transit, and Pluto in Capricorn. So it's making aspects to your personal placements in Virgo. So something's changing, revolving around the way that you look at travel, what you believe in, what you want to learn, how far you're willing to go for love and the bigger picture. So it's important that you stay open, you're willing to communicate and talk about this stuff. Even though it's very practical, I think you're going to see some major physical shifts in your life happen. Ironically, you get the Ace of Swords. So it's like, have that conversation, you know, it's like, put it all out there, put all your cards on the table, talk about how you're feeling, you know, sign the contract, have the conversation, make the phone call, send the email, whatever you got to do to be like, this is what my heart wants. It's new opportunities to share what's on your mind. And I think it can be really important, especially when it comes to contracts and agreements over the next month. There can be things that you sign on to or things that you agree to that can have long-standing effects. For Libra and Libra rising, Pluto is going retrograde in your fourth house. It is going to be a little bit more intense for you, Libra, similar to Cancer and Aries. So hold on. And know that because Pluto is the ruler of your second house of money, food, and resources, a couple things can happen here. I have a feeling that this is going to be about you cleaning stuff out of your house physically, because Pluto rules physical objects. It can be about you no longer eating certain foods or no longer buying or consuming certain foods. You may be feeling like you're willing to declutter and get rid of things and lighten your load. So it can be as simple as like, you know, going through a drawer and getting rid of a bunch of old clothes, or it could be going through a garage and like having a garage sale. I have a feeling that it's also going to be about you and your body physically letting go of things that you've been holding on to, right? Emotional things you've been holding on to. This can bring up, especially because of the eclipses for you, Libra, things in regards to inheritances, taxes, money owed. It's what people give you versus what you have to pay. So some of you guys are still wrapping up tax stuff or needing to make tax payments, especially stuff connected to your property or your home. There can be lots of conversations that you're having with other people, especially with the eclipses in your 8th house, about what you're doing about your home resources, buying homes, selling homes, refinancing homes. I would say that this is a time of practicing minimalism and letting go and releasing and knowing that if you're willing to do that, you have a lot to gain. I know Pluto in the 4th house has been challenging for Libras, lots of difficult family dynamics, issues with parents, issues with properties, issues with the past. And now you're being given the opportunity to let the past go and no longer carry it forward with you. It's very emotional. Sometimes it does come along with saying goodbye to a person or a home or a thing. So be mindful of that. The card that I get for you is the 2 of Pentacles. So it does seem like there is a trade-off, you know, and the eclipses are in your 2nd and also in your 8th house. So it's the sweet and salty, you know. For the most part, the North Node eclipses in your 8th want to bring you more, but they'll bring you more through other people. So people who invest in you, inheritances that you get, tax payouts, your partner making more money. But I think that the 2 of Pentacles is basically saying like, yeah, that came in, but not in the most positive way. Or, yeah, I gained this, but this is what I had to actually give up in order to receive that. So it's kind of talking about weighing your options. It can represent you kind of going back and forth with like, do I value this? Do I not? Do I sell this? Do I not? Be mindful around financial transactions, just with the eclipses going on right now, and at least until after the Mercury retrograde. That way you've had time to really communicate with a partner about your resources and what makes sense as you take steps forward when it comes to your financial future. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, this is important because Pluto is your chart ruler, so pay attention. Pluto's going retrograde in your natal 3rd house of communication, cars, vehicles, contracts, movement, your siblings, anything that's about communication and how you think or how you speak. Now, Pluto is your chart ruler, so I think this is going to give you an opportunity to reevaluate what you think, how you communicate, words of power, learning to restructure thoughts and letting go of negative thought patterns or more challenging ways that you may communicate, especially if you have found that the Pluto transit has made you a little bit more harsh with your communication. This can be a wonderful time to like reevaluate a relationship with a sibling, whether or not you want to buy a vehicle, sell a vehicle, refinance a vehicle. It can also be a time where you're just realizing that your words have power and how you use them, whether that's how you write, how you speak, what content you're putting on social media, if you're teaching people things. Like, it's a time to go back to the drawing board and rework all of that. I would say that one thing that can come of this is an opportunity for you to learn how to communicate about the changes that you're going through, right? So like the South Node eclipses for you, Scorpio, they're really breaking down your old identity, and they're trying to kind of shatter all of that armor that you keep up around you, and teaching you that, you know, power doesn't mean that you have to be standoffish or that you have to keep people at arm's length. It can be that your words are powerful in a sense of telling people, I'm scared, I don't know how to do this, I need help, you know, this, I don't know how to stop thinking this way. Going for walks, journaling, anything in relation to audiobooks, and learning about your, you know, daily habits revolving around control. Scorpio, understand that when you go through crisis, it gives you the opportunity to have a major shift and a major change. So your life is constantly going to be one thing after another. Scorpio, sun, moon, or rising. It's being set up that way to help you change and transform. You'll have many different lives that you'll go through in this lifetime. All right, so let's see what the cards say for you. Okay. All right, wow, I got the sun again. So interesting. You and Taurus got the sun. I think what it's referencing is just what's been happening with this eclipse. You know, we had a solar eclipse in Taurus. We're going to have a lunar eclipse in Scorpio. It's highlighting the sun for you. That's Leo. So that can also be talking about anything in regards to your purpose out in the world, anything in relation to your career. Many of you guys are starting new platforms or new social media platforms, or you're doing things that's about teaching people and inspiring and sharing your voice. So I think it's about being authentic. The sun is about authenticity, creativity, and how you can express your most personal kind of self, and just being mindful of the energy that are in your words. For Sag and Sag rising, this is a Pluto retrograde in your second house, and Pluto is the ruler of your natal 12th. So Sag, you want to be mindful that there can be some unexpected expenses that come out of nowhere. This is both a blessing and a curse. It can also be about you redefining and reworking your self-esteem or anything in regards to, security, how you feel in your body. Pluto being the ruler of your 12th house, going retrograde in the second, is like teaching you to learn to let go of things that you can't control. It can be bringing up issues where there's subconscious spending habits or eating habits, and where you have a tendency to be afraid of tackling financial issues, or afraid of really going deep into some of your own personal talents and being willing to share this with the world. Now, the second house is the money that you have to spend, and the 12th house is things that you don't see coming. So that's why I'm telling you, be mindful. There can be unexpected expenses that can come with some of these transits. I think it's also about learning to kind of deal with financial issues head on, and not just hiding from them and just letting them loom. It can also be teaching you about your attachment style, and where you can have a tendency to detach if you don't feel safe, or if you're getting triggered psychologically from things that remind you of the past, and where that has a tendency to kind of make you a little squirrely, right? Because the 12th house is what we don't see coming. I would encourage a lot of Sag and Sag risings to consider hypnosis, therapy, tapping, anything that deals with 12th house stuff to help you clear some of this stuff up. There can be things coming up that you weren't aware were being stored in your body, specifically trauma, The card that I get for you is the Queen of Pentacles. So that's a wonderful card. It's saying you're solid. It's also about you doing a lot of manifestation, abundance work, really focusing on health and wealth, and bringing both of those things in, and really praying about that and on it, and asking for guidance in regards to that stuff in your life. There can be an earth sign woman, so it can be a Taurus, a Virgo, or a Capricorn that comes in to help you kind of stabilize this in some way. Being that Pluto is in the second house, it makes me wonder, are you going to meet a very powerful person who's really sure of themselves and secure, and they have a lot of information about money and wealth and investing and financial freedom? And do you meet this person and they kind of inspire you to have more of a handle on some of these areas in your life? Probably. For Capricorn and Capricorn rising, this is important because it's happening in your sign. You are wrapping up what's been a rather long period since 2008 of just a lot of self-transformation, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It certainly got kind of crazy here the last couple of years for you, but you made it. So Pluto's going retrograde in your first house. So putting the final tweaks on your appearance, your body, what you want to change about the way that you are in the world, how you wield or use your energy. Some of you guys have gone through some pretty dramatic transformations. I've seen people lose 100 pounds. I've seen people get into strength training. I've seen people who are now climbing mountains. A lot of you guys have been focused on strength, not necessarily weight or even appearance, but strength. So a lot of toning and weight training and lifting and things like that. Now you're more aware of the signs of aging with this transit as well. So I would just say be mindful of that. Don't do anything too crazy during the retrograde, especially surgical procedures or anything in regards to redefining what you look like, if it's cosmetic or if it's something that you need to do. I would say just be careful and selective with dates that you would have for any of those procedures. Now, Pluto rules your natal 11th house, so I think it's about how you're getting really in tune and really passionate about your goals, about where you're going in life, about what you want to achieve. Perhaps maybe you're seeing some of your friends become very successful and you're like, I want to be like that person. You are going to be most like the people that you surround yourself with. So be mindful that if you're wanting to bring more abundance and if you're wanting to bring more stability and professional success into your life, a lot of it is who you're networking with or who you're going to be around. So you want to have people who are already doing that, who are kind of in your corner, because they're going to lend that energy to you, and they're also going to inspire you to keep on climbing. Now, it is possible that you're redefining your goals right now, and you're talking to friends a lot about where you're going and about, what direction you see your life going in when it comes to your career, and how you want to live your life, because being that Pluto is the ruler of your 11th house, you need to go back and forth with other people in order to kind of figure that out. So joining networks, groups, and associations to help you do that. It can seem a little slower. It might feel like you're undergoing a very slow period of transformation this year, but you're getting ready to come out the other side. Stay focused on your goals. Don't become so goal hungry, though, that you're overlooking some of your opportunities to go and mingle with other people. Like, let other people talk. Hear what other people have to say, ask what other people are doing, especially if you see somebody that's really inspiring, talk to them, ask them about their story and how they got to where they're going, because it can be really beneficial for you. The card that I got for you is the King of Swords. So it could be an air sign, so it could be an Aquarius, a Libra, or a Gemini, or it could be you, that you're just more out there about, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is my goal. Talking to people, writing, traveling, learning, something about the exchange of information with that King of Swords, because he's very direct. And he's no bullshit. He's somebody who says what he thinks and puts it all out there and gets the show on the road and really makes things happen. It's all about intelligence too. How you communicate and you share your ideas with other people and who you end up bringing in, because you're showing that to the world. So really focus on how you're coming across to others and walking the walk and talking the talk, Capricorn. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, you've got Pluto going retrograde in your 12th house. Pluto is natally the ruler of your 10th. It makes me feel like there is lots of burning the candle on both ends, working long hours into the night, not really sleeping very well, possibly giving yourself the opportunity to reevaluate what your faith or your beliefs are. Working in private spaces, behind the scenes, behind cameras. Maybe you are a CEO that's starting your business and you're just doing all this work behind the scenes before you get ready to unveil something. Being that it rules your 10th house, it's definitely about your career or your responsibility out in the world. And I think that not many people realize how hard you're working behind the scenes to be able to maintain what you've been maintaining. But for some of you, it's also about releasing and letting go. So Pluto deals with transformation. It's in your 12th house of endings, and it's the ruler of your 10th house of career. So there is an old career dying off. There's a new one being born. There is like a handoff happening. It might be happening in private. Maybe you're getting ready to really tell the world what this new big thing that you're doing is next year. So there's like a little bit of time. So you have lots of time to put the finishing touches on this, especially if you're somebody who's involved in like international business or anything in regards to film production, anything that's just done behind the scenes, right? Because the 12th house could be like filming, or it could be just anything that's going to be more private. Now, if you are continuing your education to further your career, this is the transit that's going to help you do that. And if you are somebody who's looking to do more work internationally, this is the transit to help you do that. Realize that faith is necessary for this to help pave the way. Some of you guys are willingly stepping away from jobs and old titles and positions because you're seeing visions and you're believing in visions of something that you're working on really hard behind the scenes that you're bringing to life. So don't lose momentum. You have to keep going. You have to maintain, and you have to keep the faith. Okay? Well, the card that I got for you is the Magician. Awesome card. It has all the elements that you need in order to be successful. I just love this deck. It's so spooky. So Pluto. The Magician knows what's up. I mean, he's going to use all of the elements at hand to be able to make magic happen. So there's definitely a sense of you really taking stock of everything that you've got on the table right now, to really initiate and bring about change. Like, that change is coming. There's a profound shift that the world's going to see for you next spring. But I think that it's about you still being in a manifestational phase, still trying to kind of ground some of this stuff out. It's as above, so below. Be mindful of your thoughts, be mindful of what you're manifesting and what you're thinking about, because you're bringing it into fruition. For Pisces and Pisces rising, you've got Pluto going retrograde in your natal 11th house of goals, friendships, networking, and associations. And Pluto is the ruler of your natal 9th house. So to me, this seems like there's a major reevaluation of your goals. Perhaps maybe your beliefs are tied to this in some way. There can be friends from the past coming back, especially from other places. You might be hearing from or reaching out to people who live in other places to help you redefine your goals or achieve them. I think travel can be a big piece of the puzzle, traveling with friends, going places with friends, networking with foreigners or people who are in other places to really expand that 10th house, right? Excuse me, the 11th house. You are in the sweet spot because we are seeing that Pluto is in a sextile to Pisces. So being that it's sextiling Pisces, and also it's making trines to Mercury and Taurus, it makes me feel like there's a lot of you communicating and expressing where you're going in your life and what your beliefs are. I think that Pluto being the ruler of your 9th house is like believing that you can change where you live, believing that you can change your religion, change your belief system. Really prominent teachers and gurus that kind of come into your life, but they might come through friends. You might get a referral from a friend for somebody that really changes your life. I could also see that there's like opportunities for you working with friends, or opportunities for you to reach some of your professional goals, but it requires some kind of publishing, traveling, or possibly needing to file legal documents to be able to make this happen. So if you need some assistance with law or legality, ask for referrals. People can help you. They can help you kind of bring this together, especially friends. You never know who may know somebody, right? I think that for you, Pisces, it's also just about helping align your beliefs with your actual goals and making sure that you're participating in a belief system that's going to really help facilitate you reaching your goals. So if you need somebody new, a new guru or anything like that, to help you achieve some of this, and then it's the retrograde is going to help that person come in, right? Friends can come back though. So that's the other thing, is Pluto going retrograde is friends. Look for friends who come back, who can help paint a picture of what direction you should or could be going in your life. The card that I get for you is, the Hierophant. There we go. So it really is the professional, right? So that can be like the attorney, the therapist, the doctor, whoever it is that comes in, somebody who gives you advice and talks to you about like the right path and like what direction to go in. So the Hierophant can be somebody who shows up, who gives you all of the advice that you need before you make a really prominent shift or change or decision. The Hierophant also reminds us of our role in society and what society expects from us, how to do something the appropriate way. So once again, if you're in need of professional services or somebody who can kind of aid you in making some of these changes, somebody's going to show up basically who will be the Hierophant who can help you get this done. That card is associated with Taurus, so I'm interested, since this Taurus eclipse, if that person has already showed up to kind of give you a sense of direction moving forward. So just really stick to your goals and make sure that your beliefs are in alignment to help you achieve those goals. And surround yourself with insightful and wise friends, because you're definitely going to need that for this shift that you're going through right now. I will leave you guys with this because I just remembered that I said that I was going to talk a little bit about the Pluto retrograde, at least for me. We'll keep it short. But I've had Pluto in my 4th house, like I said, for a number of years. And I just feel like, I don't know if it's like the pandemic or what. You know, I have a 4th house stellium, so I'm a very private person. I don't mind staying home for days on end. I'm cool with it as long as I occasionally get to go on a trip every now and then. And I feel like there's just been a lot that's been coming up for me recently, I think, with just being like, I want out of the house. And I had a trip planned. And kept, saying to myself for, 2 or 3 weeks, like, I just need to leave the house. I just want to leave the house. I just got to go. And I went on my trip and it was great, but it's so weird. It was like right around the time Pluto was stationing was when I got home, and thankfully got home. And yeah, it made me really appreciate my home. I missed it, you know, I missed being in my own space, and I missed the security of that. But I also feel like it made me realize that home is not necessarily a physical place. I need to reevaluate and kind of change my view on what home is, that home is more something within me. It's helped me, I think, kind of like reconcile issues also with like family members, and kind of like not feeling like I need to feel a certain way about certain family dynamic relationships, and not feel like I need to live in certain places. So it certainly opened my eyes a little bit and made me a little bit more open and optimistic about where I might call home, and changes and transformations that happen within the home. And I think Pluto played a little bit of a trick on me, because he was like, okay, you know, you can leave, and you know, if you go, then, you know, maybe it'll define and help you transform the way that you think about home, or even the past. And it definitely had that effect on me, even in like the shadow period, to the point where I came home and I was like, just because of where I was traveling in the world and some of the stuff that I saw, and like some of the conditions that I saw people like living in, it made me come home and go like, I don't need all this stuff. Libra rising, Pluto rules my second house, so it's really inspired me to be like, I want to get rid of a lot of things, and like maybe I do want to move, and I want to go to a new place, and I don't have to be so attached to, you know, needing to physically have a home in order to call a space home. Maybe it's just being in a new place and being in a new emotional kind of frame of mind. So it's already having that effect on me. And definitely, I think in all of the best ways, is going to continue to unfold over the next couple of weeks, and I look forward to that. So that's all for my spiel today. This was a bit of a long one. Thank you guys for being patient. Thank you guys for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing. Leave me a comment. Let me know, where is this Pluto retrograde happening in your chart? How has Pluto treated you over the last, like, I don't even know. It's been like, what, 12, 14 years? I don't even know. Since 2008. And what are you finally burying, or saying goodbye to, or ending, or wrapping up? And where are you feeling more empowered? So let me know in your comments below. I'll be back tomorrow, Saturday. I'm going to be doing my live readings at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Catch me there. I'll be there. I think it's tarot, if I remember correctly. I'll have to check. And then we'll be back on Sunday with an astro weather. So hopefully I've by then fully adjusted and I have gotten my act together. I'm still kind of in vacation mode and feeling a little under the weather since traveling. So thank you guys for being patient with me, and I will see all of you very soon. Take care.